So crating is really fun. It's something which, well, obviously like anything new, might challenge you when you first start doing it, but once you get into it and once you start using it, it'll change the way you draw. And it works simply like this. Let's just say, I'll take this. So you can see that little pencil sharpener. So if you said, okay, I'm going to draw that pencil sharpener, and what you do is you start drawing like this, and then you draw like this, and then you draw like this, and then you do that, and you get to the end and you look at your pencil sharpener and you think, hang on, that's too fat, that's too thin, I must be rubbish at drawing. Of course not. The thing is, you've got to look at the whole object, and the way you do that is you simplify everything into shapes. So if I look at that, the main shape that I can see there is a rectangle. So this is where you can draw it two ways, and I'm going to draw this two ways for you. The first way I'm going to draw is oblique, and then I'll draw it isometric. And just as a reminder, oblique is when you have your shape going up at 45 degrees. Isometric is when you have what I call that lazy V, which is going up at 30 degrees. Okay, so what I'll do here to separate these two is, this is where I'll put the isometric, the oblique I mean, and this is where I'll put the isometric. Okay, so I've got a little pencil sharpener. Now the first thing I notice is that the pencil sharpener is a rectangle which is quite skinny. Now you'll notice I'm crossing my lines over there. It really doesn't matter, because at the moment all I'm doing is sketching, and I can see that over there and over there. Now I can already see my proportions are ever so slightly out. Now I'll be honest, if I was doing this for myself, what I'd probably do is I would probably start again. However, for the purposes of this demonstration, this will be fine, because I'm just trying to get a point across. So actually my proportions aren't quite right. I'll see if I can correct those. Also, I'm really not drawing this super detailed. What I'm trying to do is get the point across, not to do a super detailed drawing. I mean, that's kind of why I'm drawing in Sharpie, which I don't normally do. Okay, so you can see there that everything is pretty much parallel, and well, it follows the overall shape and then plays with it some more. You know, adds the how can I say it, the extra curves, the extra bits. Now in this case I'm going to now simplify this. I'm going to simplify the shape into an isometric rectangle. Okay, so there we go. That's where my circle would go, more or less. That's where we would have that kind of lovely little ergonomic dip for your fingers. Again, I think this one could be a bit longer, can be a bit skinnier, but that's okay. in a way I want you to see that I'm not being perfectionist deliberately. And this is a sketch, this is not a presentation drawing. Right? I think I'm actually going to make this a little bit skinnier so you can see that there's nothing wrong with making your changes. Apologies for the interruption. I've got another video which is just finished editing. Whoops. So yes, as I was saying, I don't mind that these videos aren't super polished, amazing YouTube quality. I don't mind that these sketches I'm doing aren't perfect. These aren't presentation sketches. Personally, I think that one of the biggest curses is perfectionism and trying to get it all perfect all the time. Of course there's a time for that. I'm not saying that we should just accept, rubbish. But there's a time for perfection, and then there's also a time for just giving it a good go, keeping it nice and loose and free. That's a word I like to use for sketching, loose. Because if your drawing is loose, what you don't do is this. You simply go, and if the line goes a little bit further than it's meant to, well, the worst case scenario, you can use a rubber if you want to, but also, who cares? I mean, I would suggest sometimes just get a pen, just draw in pen, so that you can't rub out your mistakes. And again, who cares? What's the worst that could happen? It's not like people are going to stop loving you or you'll look like an idiot. It's just a small mistake, and I think that's something we need to learn. Now, if you want to, you could, of course, also, this is just an extension technique for anybody who may have thought, well, I want to do a bit more. Now for this, I'm going to deliberately, I know it's a different colour, but I'm going to deliberately get my thin pen. This is a very lovely, I really like using it. It's a very thin Japanese made pen with an extremely fine nib. So we can add a little bit of shadow to that. Let's say this shadow is going out that way. Bum, bum, bum. So actually this video is not about how to do shadows, but it's possible that you've been watching this and you thought to yourself that you can already do this. That's fine. And the great thing is, if you think you can already do this, if you feel comfortable doing this already, well, that's not a problem. Do something more complex. So